Good evening. I call to order today's Plan Commission meeting on July 19th, 2023. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker?
Here.
Commissioner Schenk?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Here.
Commissioner Flores? Here. Commissioner Wright?
Here.
Vice Chair Cooper?
Here.
Chair Ali?
Here, thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from June 21st, 2023 meeting?
So moved.
Commissioner Shea? Second, Commissioner Schenk. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes stand approved. Okay, first item on the agenda is a special use permit for a commercial recreation facility, American Martial Arts Academy, located at 107 West Boughton Road, Suite B, project number 405.23. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Second. Commissioner Flores, second, Vice Chair Cooper. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker?
Yes.
Commissioner Schenk?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores? Yes. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooper?
Yes.
Chair Ali?
Yes. Mr. Eastman, you have the floor.
Thank you. The applicant is here before you tonight in order to request approval of a special use permit for a commercial recreation facility in order to allow a martial arts studio at 107 West Boughton Road, Suite B. The subject site comprises approximately 1.95 acres, is developed with an approximate 8,900 square foot commercial building, and is currently zoned B2, community retail. Access to the property is available via a right-in, right-out entrance off of Boughton Road to the north, as well as Bolingbrook Drive via cross-access easement shared with the property developed by Speedway to the east. The shopping center has adequate parking for the proposed use. Per the zoning ordinance, a commercial recreational facility is not a permitted use within the B2 zoning district. As such, the applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow a martial arts studio, commonly known as American Martial Arts Academy, at 107 West Boughton Road, Suite B. Per the applicant, the Academy is a premier martial arts school which offers a core curriculum consisting of traditional Taekwondo combined with Hapkido, Judo, and Jiu-Jitsu. With a team of professional instructors, they aim to help build their students' confidence regardless of age, skill level, or ambition in a fun and safe environment. The hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, and closed on Sunday. Per the applicant, there would be 4 employee instructors. Staff is here to recommend approval of a special use permit for a commercial recreation facility, commonly known as American Martial Arts Academy, to be located at 107 West Boughton Road, Suite B, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. I have no questions. Do we have any questions?
I have one. I know the area quite well. Parking, that's my main concern. How many students will be going in at one time? And what are the age groups of the students in the martial arts studio?
So within the document that you have, the detailed description of the business, on the second page, they talk about the different classes that they offer. There is different categories, obviously. They have a Tiny Tigers program, which is 10 to 20 students per class for ages 4 to 6. They have a kids martial arts from 7 to 12, which is 15 to 25 students, and then so on and so forth. They have different programs for young adults and adults. These programs are obviously staggered throughout the day. So if you had specifics on how they kind of turn over and things like that, I would defer to the applicant on that.
Yeah, I was more curious about the parking itself, because it's extremely tight in there.
So Matt, if you had with the Tiny Tigers, then most likely the parents are gonna stay with them. And if you had, let's just pick 15 students, that's 15 cars. Is there room for 15 cars in there?
Yes, they have more than 30 parking stalls there. They have more than 30 parking stalls.
Oh, okay.
That includes when the restaurant is full, or?
The restaurant's its own lot. So if the restaurant starts to park on the other side, that becomes an enforcement issue between 2 private property owners. So I can't control that. Sometimes if it becomes an issue, we'll talk to code enforcement.
There is 2 suites. There's
Yeah,
already
the
has two
Suite A,
sections.
yeah, is a professional office, so typically he's closed by 5 o'clock, so
Okay.
you have nobody there after 5 o'clock, other than this facility.
We have 30 spots on that side of the building? Because the other side of the lot would belong to the,
Right, so they have spots along their side of the building, and then it wraps around the south side of the building as well.
Gas station.
Any further questions? Hearing none, do we have any questions from the audience? Hearing and seeing none. Do we have a motion to close this public hearing?
motion.
Vice Chair Cooper, second Commissioner Shank. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker?
Yes.
Commissioner Shank?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores? Yes. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooper?
Yes.
Chair Ali?
Yes. This time, I'd like a motion to approve the findings of fact for project number 405.23.
So moved.
Commissioner Shank,
Second.
second Commissioner Shea. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker?
Yes.
Commissioner Shank?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores? Yes. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooper?
Yes.
Chair Ali?
Yes. So we have in front of us a special use permit for a commercial recreational facility, American Martial Arts Academy, project number 405.23. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Commissioner Flores, second Vice Chair Cooper. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker?
Yes.
Commissioner Shank?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores? Yes. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooper?
Yes.
Chair Ali?
Yes, we stand approved. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is a special use permit for a cannabis dispensary, Cookies, at 190 South Weber Road. Applicant is Dennis Jaboro and Carmen Rossi. Project number 406.23. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Shank, second Commissioner Shea. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker?
Yes.
Commissioner Shank?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores? Yes. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooper?
Yes.
Chair Ali?
Yes. Mr. Eastman, you have the floor.
Thank you. The applicant is here before you tonight in order to request an approval for a special use permit for a cannabis dispensary in order to allow a cannabis dispensary at 190 South Weber Road. The subject property comprises approximately 2.03 acres, is currently developed with a drive-through bank, which is currently vacant, and last occupied Bank of America. This is zoned B2 Community Retail. Access to development would be available via right-in, right-out off Weber Road to the northwest, a right-in, right-out off Veterans Parkway to the south, and a full access drive off Grady Drive to the southwest. There is adequate parking for the proposed use. Per the zoning ordinance, a cannabis dispensary is not permitted within the B2 zoning district. As such, the applicant is here before you to request a special use permit to allow a cannabis dispensary, commonly known as Cookies, at 190 South Weber Road. Per the applicant, the dispensary would be licensed by the state of Illinois to acquire cannabis from licensed cannabis business establishments for the purpose of selling or dispensing cannabis, cannabis-infused products, cannabis seeds, paraphernalia, or related suppliers to purchasers or qualified registered medical cannabis patents or caregivers. Per the applicant, the proposed use would require photo identification to enter and be limited to those customers that are 21 years of old and over, according to state statute. The building would be outfitted with enhanced security features, which include 24/7 security system in order to prevent and detect diversion, theft, natural disasters, loss of security, currency, and unauthorized intrusion. The applicant's standard operating procedures include strategies for on-site protection from power outages, fires, and other security-related matters. The hours of operation are proposed from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. Per the applicant, the proposed dispensary would employ approximately 40 full-time and part-time employees. For any given shift, this would include a general manager, assistant general manager, a retail sales personnel, and on-site security. Staff is here before you to recommend approval of a special use permit for a cannabis dispensary, commonly known as Cookies, at 190 South Weber Road. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Just one quick question here. 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week are the hours of operation, correct?
Yeah.
Is that pretty consistent?
So the
Industry?
actual ordinance that the village approved, that is the widest range that you can operate for a dispensary is 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. The other dispensary that was approved, I believe, does close earlier on Sundays.
Okay. And parking is adequate, correct?
Yeah, they're actually
Oh, yeah.
well above what would be
50
required.
spot. Any questions from the commission?
And we assume that the Lilyfield Park and Thackeray Drive is more than 1,500 feet from the site?
So the school is what we have the setback from. We don't actually have a required setback from residential property. The 1,500 measurement that you're referring to is from the nearest dispensary. So they're more than 1,500 feet from that. The thing that the village did add, in addition to what the state requires, is a 500-foot buffer from any existing school, which there is no school in the area.
Does the village require proof of insurance other than the Illinois requirement of the 50,000 surety bond?
Proof of insurance is part of like their business license?
Yeah, liability.
That would be a good question. It's not something that I would deal with on my side of the house, I guess. I could defer to the applicant. I'm sure they could explain exactly how they operate. But in terms of a zoning application, no, I don't look for proof of insurance.
Oh, I see. That's a separate.
Right.
Okay.
I would assume that they have to carry pretty hefty insurance for the product that they house, but I would defer to the
Well, we
applicant.
Certainly has to.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Shea?
A couple of the homes, I believe it's lot 4, it has a white fence. The homes closer to the road, to Grady Drive, they seem to have pretty solid set of screening. But there's one home in particular that seems that it would be exposed. I mean, do we think that a small line of arborvitae along that fence is sufficient?
So, if we can turn to their application, there's a site plan in here. Actually, I'll pull it up here. So, this is the building. Sorry, I'm trying to stand and not block everyone. Weber Road's out here. Veterans Parkway comes down here. There is a rather significant kind of existing bermed area along the back of the property, and then they're proposing to stagger arborvitaes from the very beginning of the sidewalk all the way down to where their property ends. There are going to be 2 rows at 3-foot spacing. Typically, those are 6 to 8 feet at the time of installation, which obviously they'll continue to grow. You know, if it's deemed unacceptable, if we needed to do something more, I'm sure we could work with them on additional screening.
What about lighting? Having said that, there are residents
Sure.
on the other side.
So,
parking lot
yeah,
lights
so obviously, they would be subject to a commercial lighting ordinance. There would be 0 spillover allowed past the property line. I haven't gotten to them on how they work their lighting after hours, but typically you would drop the majority of the lights and keep on just for security purposes. So any of these, lights along the back, I would assume would only be lit to the purpose of securing the building, not kind of lighting it up at nighttime. But we do have a code in place that they have to follow.
That's about, what, 10:30 or 11 o'clock?
And they would shut down, I mean, the lights should dim as they close, so at 10 o'clock, when all that's starting to shut down, those lights should be dropping.
Is there something that's on the site plan or in the plan to see when, and what time?
In terms of lighting plan?
Yes.
We haven't got to that yet. I guess that's something that I can certainly keep in the back pocket when we're reviewing it with them. Right now, this is just a conceptual plan that they wanted to bring before you, yeah.
Understood.
Is the land lease, is the property bought?
I would defer to the applicant, but they're trying to purchase.
The 40 employees that we're going to be hiring, or the current, or How are they contributing to the development of the community?
Yeah.
So forth.
I brought that question up when we did meet. Their priority is to hire local. That would be their first and foremost objective, is to hire from the community directly. When they are getting ready to open, they would open the doors to anyone who wanted to apply, and if they meet the requirements, I would assume they would be looking to hire local versus having people travel from long distances.
Good to hear. And this is recreational,
Correct.
no medicine.
No medical. However, based upon our discussions, if you have a medical license, they would offer some type of discount to you, but they can't sell and operate the same way a medical facility does.
Understood.
There'll be no manufacturing,
No manufacturing.
cultivating,
No,
wholesale distribution.
no.
Okay.
On their security, are their security going to be LEOs or what's their typical hiring structure for security?
That I would definitely defer to they have a specialist here. I would defer to the security questions to him and allow him to speak more direct about that. Coop? One second.
For the product that they're selling and the costs and everything, $15 hour employee is gonna handle that?
I would assume they're competitive with their rates that they're hiring is what other dispensaries offer their employees. But again, I don't get into how much they pay their employees as part of my review.
It's 15 to 25. Any further questions from the commission? Hearing none?
We could, there are a number of applicants, other members of the applicants here that they could probably get up and be sworn in if you want to have them answer some
Sure, feel free.
questions.
Will we be showing the presentation?
Yeah, I can pull that up as well. They all do have it in front of them, but yeah, so all you're gonna do is just kind of, I can actually do it. Give me your Vanna White.
Okay. Just don't ask for a raise.
Yeah, all I know.
I'll disregard that comment, Mr. Eastman. Could you please sign in and raise your right? You swear to tell the truth at this public hearing?
I do.
Please, your name?
Juliana Seja.
Okay, Juliana. Tell me
Good to
about
go.
cookies.
All right, so my name's Juliana Seja. I am the Director of Community Impact for this cookies facility. I will be representing and bringing on a few of our applicant members, but I want to start by telling you a little bit about Cookies. So Cookies is a globally recognized brand. It's been compared to the likes of Apple, and the way that I look at it, the way that Apple is regarded in its not only its aesthetics and marketing, it does the same for quality. You're getting a good product, and it's consistent. So Cookies is an innovator in the industry. For as long as we've been around, as Cookies has been around, they've been able to expand. So from 2018 to 2022, they expanded from 0 to just under 50 stores. And so we are quickly growing, and now with the legalization of recreational cannabis in Illinois, we're looking to grow here in Bolingbrook. Just a little bit more about Cookies. Every aspect of the store is well thought out, from the way that it looks to the experience that any customer would get. What we like to say at Cookies is, meet the customer where they are, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But what drove us as an applicant group and a social equity group to form a relationship with Cookies and help bring Cookies to Illinois was their commitment to social equity and how much that they do to bring not only marginalized communities, but people of color and women like myself to this industry, those who would not have gotten an opportunity otherwise. And they truly do live and breathe that, and I see that, and that's why I stand behind this brand. So you'll note there's a couple quick facts on your sheet. Whether you live in an area of legal access or not, you've likely heard of the name Cookies. If not, you definitely will, as we are entering the Illinois market. Our brand has become a $500 million, actually that number is probably doubled, but $500 million a year enterprise. And we're looking to create unique names and continue with our high quality strain genetics. So a couple of the Cookie Core's values: putting family and community first. As a mother of 2 young children and someone who's had both good and bad experiences with cannabis myself. That is something that, as part of this group and coming to this community, I want you to know that is very important to me in both developing relationships, but also as a parent, just making sure that we are being responsible in every regard. So let me tell you a little bit about our operating partners. I'm going to introduce a few of people from our team. So I'll start with our two operating partners, which are Carmen Rossi and Dennis Javoro. Carmen started his career at a law firm in Joliet. In 2013, Rossi formed 8 Hospitality Management Group, which employs just under 1,000 employees here in Illinois. His portfolio boasts 25 plus ventures, and he continues to practice law through his law firm, City Lake Law. He serves on multiple boards, and most notably as a distinguished board member for the Illinois Economic Development Board. And you can find more details on that in the deck. Dennis is a serial entrepreneur with an eye for business and ability to see opportunities from afar. His family-oriented, I consider him a family-oriented businessman. He's a father, husband, and he first started with a family-owned chain of grocery and alcohol stores and then moved on to retail and cellular. And this was well before cellular became, a big thing, which goes on to trend, speaks to his ability to see beyond the current market. So in 2018, he entered the cannabis space in Michigan, where he continues to work on the operations side, and he is part owner and operator in 6 vertically integrated cannabis facilities. You'll see a note about Josh Ginsburg, who unfortunately isn't with us here today, but he's well known in cannabis as a pioneer and founder of the largest dispensary chains in Colorado, well regarded. He oversees implementation. He's overseen implementation of systems which have supported 28 plus retail stores and massive indoor cultivation centers. I'm very excited and happy and proud that he is on our team and chose to work with us. Jose Garrica is here. He's a veteran. Jose, where are you at? Raise your hand. Jose is a veteran. He began his military career early, starting as an E1. He achieved the rank of E4 within a remarkable 2-year span. During his time in the military, he discovered his passion for security, and we appreciate him bringing his extensive experience to the private sector. We also have Ed Farrell here, our security consultant. And lastly, I'll introduce myself before turning it over to our partners. So again, my name is Juliana Ceja. I have a background in technology. So I started off in technology in the transportation and logistics industry just under 13 years ago with a company called Coyote Logistics. From there, I was able to grow and learn, and I went on to work for multiple organizations, namely Amazon, where my last role was as a liaison for public policy and the technology team, helping to introduce legislation and translate that into business requirements. And so how did I enter the cannabis space? Well, understanding that cannabis was coming into the community, into Illinois, and having that opportunity present, and also being familiar with its beneficial impacts. My mother in 2020 passed from pancreatic cancer, and if it wasn't for some of the alternative medicines that were available at the time, that is what was able to get her through some of those most painful moments. So I have appreciation for this as a medicine and also on the recreational side. But again, as I mentioned, I am a parent of 2 small kids, 2 girls under 6. And the most important thing to me as a parent being in this industry, especially seeing how it is marketed, is to make sure that we are responsible, both as a business and as consumers. And that's something that I will aim to protect and be responsible for as part of the community, as part of a community business member. So I will hand it over. If we can move on to the next slide.
Juliana, can I ask a question?
Yes.
As the Director of Community Impact, what are some of the things that how you're gonna empower the community profoundly, as said?
Absolutely.
What are some of the activities or community involvement?
Absolutely. So one thing that I was this is separate from what I just did, but I was actually playing, invited to play at a tournament at the Bolingbrook golf course yesterday as part of the retired NFL team tournament. And there I was able to network and just get to know and meet a lot of the great businesses that were involved in that effort and a couple of the nonprofits that were available. So my first order of business is to just get to know the neighborhood. Get to know the neighborhood, get to know the community members, including the businesses, learning about the nonprofits that are available and how we can help fund programs, how we can help fund education. Really, rather than us dictating how we would help, I'd like to listen first and understand what it is that's needed and what the community would like to see and go from there.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll hand it over to Carmen. He'll give more information on the proposed location. Thank you.
Chairman, you wish to swear me in?
Do you swear to tell the truth at this public hearing?
Absolutely, yes.
Go ahead.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you very much for the time. We don't want to go beyond any more than is the areas of topics that you're interested in, so I want to address some of the questions that were asked specifically. But as well, we've got Ed Farrell, who's here, and you might recognize his face. He was here a few weeks ago on a related, or however long ago, excuse me, on a related cannabis dispensary in Bolingbrook. But Ed Dennis and I have worked together on projects in the past as a security specialist, so anything specifically there. I will dive into some of the questions and certainly entertain any further. With regards to insurance, in order to be granted a license by the state of Illinois, there are requirements that you absolutely have to not only establish at the time of application, but maintain every year for the renewal process. And it is significant. Off the top of my head, I don't know the required insurance, but very similar to many of the IDPFR, Illinois state regulatory departments are going to require. So alcohol, cannabis is certainly one of your more, if not the most regulated currently in the state. With regards to the lighting, we intend no additional lighting scheme that is really contemplated currently at the Bank of America commercial site, and that would just to give post-evening dress. That said, we came to the village about a year ago. I remember we were prepping for Lollapalooza. It was my first meeting here with the mayor and her staff. So it's been a year process, and we've toured a number of properties throughout the village. The unique thing is the mayor and her staff have been very communicative about the importance and needs of the community, as well as the guidelines. And I'd like to think we're incredibly receptive. The success of any retail store, in our opinion, is to work hand in hand with local governance and the community. On the parking spots, and something of note, we are taking out the pillars for the drive-through. So it's not only the 45 or 50 currently contemplated spots that you might be familiar with Bank of America, there will be additional. So as Matt had indicated, their parking should be more than ample. The screen, which we'd proposed, we've proposed a few iterations of that. We led with that because I can imagine that would be very important for the residents. Not that there would be any gleaming light. There is a strong delta of space between the back of the building, what I would call a bit of a depressed ditch or a ravine, excuse me, and then the barrier itself. But very open-minded. I think we're just in the earliest stages. I know there was a question with regards to the building. We are under contract with the building. We have elected, what we've effectively done as just a measure of strategy is build in the terms of the contract to coincide with the local ordinance and process. Meaning, had this not gone well, we might not have as much use and utility for a Bank of America site. And then a good question on the community engagement with employment. we absolutely want to employ, as the success of most any retail business within the community, and the market on wage is driven by competition, particularly in retail. But something that's unique about cannabis, maybe familiar for me in hospitality, they're known at your sales agents are known as in the industry bud tenders, and the analogy is similar to bartenders, but tipping is a frequent practice. I mean, if you're working in the store, you're going through some pretty extensive training because so many consumers want the education and the experience. They want to express what style of product they're looking for, and then as such, their tipping is very prevalent. So the bud tenders actually walk away net pretty decent amount of wage. If there are specific questions for Ed, we've got him here. I don't recall if I tried to grab everybody's ops question.
Is the land lease, or do you plan to buy?
Right, so we are under contract to buy, and
Thank you.
if this goes well, that will, yes, we will be the landowners.
And the insurance, is the village named as an additional insured under the contract?
I would imagine as a property owner, yes. I would be surprised if it is an additional insured on the license. That's a good question.
Who holds the license? Is this a franchise?
No, great question. So, Cookies is a brand. It's a global brand. We are 100% owners of the license that then is operating the store. So Cookies does not own the store. We're effectively licensing it through their brand. So we will go through strict guidelines on build, design. You see renderings in the packet. They're very sensitive to their brand, which is a good thing. Because they're very strict guidelines in best practices for consumer, but also for space. But yeah, we own it.
This is a social equity
Yes.
license.
Yes, and we've got some of our partners here tonight, but in order to be awarded, it is a social equity
And you're
license.
saying that the license is owned by Mr. Millen, Gilbert Millen, who's the founder of Cookies?
Right, so Cookies doesn't own, they own the intellectual property of the brand and the products, but they don't own the license or the store here in Bolingbrook.
All right, so who holds the license? You?
Yep, myself, would be Dennis, Juliana, some of our partners in the back, yes.
And that requires you to have 51% ownership and 10 employees, but you're having 40, right?
There are, yes, you're speaking to the varied mechanisms with which you could qualify for social equity, one of which was, yes, that we fell into a different structure scheme, but that's right, that was one of them.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Rossi? Hearing none, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sort of tell the truth at this public hearing?
I do.
Please proceed. Your name?
All right, my name's Ed Farrell.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you guys again. So once again, my name's Ed Farrell. I am a security expert for your edification. I'm a retired U.S. Marshal. I was there for just shy of a quarter of a century. As you can imagine, I have a lot of experience from that at securing things at a high level. After that, I went into private security, and I've been working with cannabis locations in the Illinois market and other markets since 2014. I've worked with hundreds of cannabis applicants and clients, working with them, establishing security programs, security protocols, doing their guards, cameras, alarms, access. So I have a lot of experience in it. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about Cookie's security program, if you don't mind. And I'll do it at a high level. I know your time is of the essence, so I'll try to get through it quickly, and I'm more than happy to answer questions at the end. But first and foremost, Cookies is committed to doing a multi-layered security approach. And as you can imagine, having concentric circles of protection is the most robust way to secure a location. And we'll talk about that in detail in a little bit. But that just leads to a very safe and secure environment where it safeguards cannabis products and customers at every stage of the cannabis experience, which is what we want in the industry. Security plan overview, if you don't mind. They're going to develop a culture of security at every level of the organization. And as you can imagine, it's not just the guards, it's the management, it's the staff, it's the ownership, making sure everybody buys in and engages in the security program. They will also have very robust standard operating procedures that will cover anything from security protocols to power outages to fires, chemical spills, medical emergencies, the whole gamut, so that they're able to triage and deal with anything that might arise in the dispensary. And not only have robust SOPs, but also have the training behind it to make sure their staff is able to implement these SOPs and security plans at a very high level. The next part is what everybody's interested in is I'm going to talk about the security infrastructure. So as you can imagine, it generally starts with cameras, alarms, and access control. As you are all aware, the state requires that almost every inch of the facility be covered by a camera. The only places that are precluded are the bathrooms for obvious reasons. All that camera data is stored 90 days on site or off premises so that all that data is available in case something happens. The cameras have to be HD, high def, so you're able to get a good image and capture everybody coming in and out. Not only is the interior of the facility covered, but you have to cover the entire exterior of the facility. Cookies is also going to exceed the program by putting license plate reader cameras on the exterior so they're able to capture license plates and not just faces of vehicles coming in and out. All those cameras, alarms, and access control will be installed by a licensed provider in the state. The next part of the program is access control. As you can imagine, the law requires having locked doors between certain areas, which is public limited access and the vault and things of that nature. But having access control also gives you a forensic accounting of all movement in the facility, which deters theft, loss, and diversion. Last is a burglar alarm. They're going to have a commercial burglar alarm. It covers all entry points on the facility. So think, not just door contacts, but there'll be glass break sensors, motion sensors, things of that nature, vibration sensors in the vault in case somebody tries to come through a wall. It's very robust, which makes this a very hardened facility. On the exterior of the facility, it's a hardened facility. There have to be locks on the doors. There's shatterproof tinted film on the windows, if there are any windows on the outside, to make sure you can't break in. Additionally, Cookies is going to exceed the requirements, but by giving a live feed to the PD. So if something happens, an alarm goes off, something of that nature, you're going to enable the police to be able to triage and handle the problem.
When you say a live feed to the PD, do you mean a live feed to the police department or to dispatch
We would work with the chief to see where he wanted that ported. Whatever his desire is, it's a web-based portal, as you can imagine today, you can get it right over the internet, and they work very well. And it gives not only access to the live footage, but it'll also give you access to what's called an NVR, which is the historic data. Okay? So the security plan has 4 parts, and I'll go them real quickly. We're safeguarding cannabis at every stage. The important part of that is there's a vault, and it's built to the DEA diversion guidelines. They're very stringent. They're hard. Carmen and I worked with a client before. He got locked out of his vault. He had to pay a locksmith. It took him 2 hours to get in the vault. That's how robust these structures are. The important part of that is when the facility closes, all cannabis and cash has to be stored in the vault overnight, which again mitigates theft, loss, and diversion. The dispensary will also have a strict no loitering policy, no consumption policy, and they'll be enforcing that and working with clients and the police to make sure that doesn't happen. They're also going to protect this property and the confidentiality of all the information they have there. They'll maintain a safe and secure environment for all, and they'll monitor, maintain, and upgrade their security as needed. Lastly, and this is kind of where we see eye to eye, and I'm really glad to hear, they see security as a partnership with the community. They're not just there to secure the facility. They want to work with the community. They want to work with the police department. They're going to go over the security protocols with them as needed. Before the dispensary opens, they're going to have the police chief in to make sure that they meet his needs as well. And again, when you get the community to buy in, it's the best result. Lastly, a gentleman had a question about security guards. There will be an armed security guard on premises every time there's an employee there. So the hours we've learned are 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Generally, to open and close the store, you have employees there an hour before or after. The armed guard will be there with them. And the armed guards in the industry standard are generally not off-duty police officers. They're private security officers. But there's a good mousetrap for this. Everybody thinks this big Navy SEAL is what you need in a cannabis dispensary. I just exited a company where we have 500 guards that work across, 5 states. It's not. It's a customer service and security position. You're the face of the organization. We target, and Cookies will target, those type of individuals that have an optimal experience and use customer service to achieve a security goal. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
I never understood how, help me understand how we manage there are different THC levels for residents and non-residents. Residents, 500 grams, and non-residents, 250 grams. How do you police that?
Great question, and it's very easily, and it's been the industry standard, and it works very well, is when you come in, everybody has to be identified. And the state requires you have an ID scanner that scans and verifies the ID. As you know, most driver's licenses and passports have a barcode on them, and it tells you, the scanner is going to tell you, is he an Illinois resident, is he an out-of-state resident, which is the first clue to the dispensary. But also, they're going to ID the purchaser twice. So when the purchaser goes into the sales floor and sees the bud tender, they also have to provide their driver's license again. So the bud tender is going to verify whether they're in-state or out-of-state. They're the ones doing the sales transaction at the point of sale area. If they see an out-of-state ID, they're going to know to drop the purchase down, and it's also put into the system.
All the ordering is done by kiosk?
Generally, a lot of it is, the industry is, but you can still go up and see a bud tender and get education as well, because sometimes the kiosk doesn't give the customer enough information.
And can we talk about the sales for a moment? The sales.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2022, I believe there was 1.5 billion in Illinois, which they collected 440 million in taxes. And there were 113 dispensaries in Illinois. So when you look at the net, based on those stats, you look at the net, and then you take out the village tax, and then after the net, you have your payroll for 40 and employees and owners. It doesn't seem that you will be even netting 500,000 in the first year.
So I'm sorry, I'm the security expert,
Oh.
so you're a little bit outside my wheelhouse.
I'm looking after our taxes.
Yes, I completely understand. I'll turn it back over to Carmen if you don't mind. Thank
We
you.
do have a limited tax that the village gets, and that's across the industry. And whether they make money or not, that's not my problem.
Yeah, I can just tell you from my experience working with hundreds of clients, most of my clients make more than $500,000 a year on their dispensaries.
Yeah.
So.
I do have one, not for you, sir, but I forgot one question that I did have, was regarding the marketing aspect.
I had a quick question for the security.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, sir.
Behind the bank is all this grassy area that butts up to the residential area. Do you videotape all that as well, or is it infrared, or do you put lights back there, or what?
So great question. So it probably won't go all the way back. I don't know what the footage, but just so you know, a camera generally goes about 90 feet. I believe that area is bigger than 90 feet. It wouldn't be able to capture that area. But the cameras will have infrared. But best practice, as we talked about earlier, is having some ambient light, which makes your IR work even better. There's no light technology, it's super expensive. IR has to work with some light.
So there'll be some light spillage back into that area, but not infringing upon the neighbors back behind there.
Yeah,
correct?
and just so we're clear, there will be spillage, but you're right, it will not reach the neighbors. There are ways to put shrouds and yellow light and things to bring it down so that it won't spill into those neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sure,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
thank you.
Are there any other questions, I suppose?
I just had a quick question regarding cookies. You're new to town, the marketing piece. What will we expect in Bolingbrook? How are you going to market cookies here? And what platform do you utilize to get your client base?
Good question. And it's been a very fluid, or rather consistently asked question from the mayor and staff. State regs limit considerably your ability, I shouldn't say ability, but your verbiage and marketing capacities, meaning you can't have a big marijuana leaf on the windows or in an advertisement. You can't say the word weed in any marketing or advertisement. And, you know, with the exception of the brand itself, you could imagine if you were allowed those styles of marketing, you'd see them all over the building. But we intend just to limit our outside signage to the logo itself. Fortunately, Cookies is a pretty regarded brand. So you've got that, and you're paying for the privilege, right? They're not doing this for free. Right, exactly right. But no, the mayor's emphasized her sensitivity. I would not find it inappropriate at all to share marketing materials prior. I think, you know, this is in a retail traffic dense area. It's actually great that there's a dispensary already open. I don't know if the board has had the opportunity to see it, but we've gone a few times. It looks very healthy and clean. I think they're doing a great job. So I'm not dancing around the question. I just don't have a marketing. It'll be pretty benign. There's not a marketing plan that contemplates any over-the-top, whether it's signage on the building or lighting up or horizontal, as well as just local press. The social media, when I say these words are prohibited, that includes social media. And IDPFR, the state's regulatory department and body, is quite strict in purviewing businesses' marketing materials. So, yeah, marketing is regulated as well, to your point.
Okay, so my next question would be, we have billboards, we have big LED signs. How many, I'm not sure. We've got quite a few on intersections and so forth. So is it within your strategy to put up, hey, cookies this way, you know? Matt, you wanna?
The village actually passed an ordinance to prohibit that. So any dispensary or any dispensary affiliated operation cannot advertise on any of those village-owned LED signs.
Okay, that was my question. So thank you, Matt,
Yeah.
for the clarification. Anything else from the commission?
See, my concern is when I hear cookies, I think of peanut butter, chocolate chip.
I'm sure they can accommodate you.
I'm just curious as to, maybe you enlighten me as to why cookies? And I know this isn't your fault because it's not your name, your brand, but why cookies?
Well, we identified Cookies as a strong partner because of their high caliber professionalism status as a global brand. They are, yeah, I mean, Juliana referenced, they are the Apple standard in cannabis. They are the most recognized brand globally. I would think, you know, as far as the does cookies lead you to a desirability on cannabis? I see the query, but I think, again, the strength of the brand would drive the traffic. And in truth, the security prohibits sort of any activity that would be otherwise a cannabis retail purchase. The access points, I mean, the state, having traveled through every state that has legalized cannabis, just as my own measure of due diligence, our state is absolutely one of the more strict and conservative when it comes to not only the sale, the volume of use, the THC quality, which is tested. Ours is strict. So from a retail standpoint, I mean, we're really bound within a pretty tight framework. From a marketability and just, business plan, yeah, it's, amongst the emerging cannabis consumer and follower, Cookies is a very well-known brand. That's why we went with them.
And when mommy says, "Can I have some cookies?"
Right. Well, they'll be blocked they'll be blocked twice before they get
That
it.
was my only concern.
Understood.
Very good, thank you. Any further questions? From the commission? Hearing none. Do you have any questions from the audience? Yes. Please come on in, sign in. Sort of tell the truth at this public hearing.
I do.
Your name, ma'am?
Teresa Carrillo.
Good evening.
A little history. On April 6, 2021, the voters in Bolingbrook voted on an advisory referendum about gaming and cannabis dispensaries. The majority of the voters in Bolingbrook wanted neither. At the time, the elected officials honored that advisory. They honored Bolingbrook. I like the phrase that was coined by our local high school principal: honor Bolingbrook, honor the Raiders. I have some Raiders at that high school. I think it would do us well to consider that statement in the light of the proposed second cannabis dispensary within our village. Less than 4 weeks ago, Bolingbrook's first cannabis dispensary, Ivy Hall, was opened. Sadly, this does not honor Bolingbrook or honor the Raiders, as this is in walking distance from our only high school. It is also within walking distance of a currency exchange and low socioeconomic part of our town, our village. Does this honor Bolingbrook? Some will argue that this allows those of lower socioeconomic backgrounds to have their own businesses and better themselves. Really? This village picked Ivy Hall, which is a well-established cannabis chain, quote, boutique, unquote. That boutique is already open 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. I believe on Sundays it closes at 6. But does this honor Bolingbrook? Today, less than 2 miles from that dispensary, that should have never been, there's a public notice posted for yet another dispensary, Cookies, at 190 Weber Road. Does this honor Bolingbrook? This is a continued mockery of the advisory vote. Does this honor Bolingbrook? This new dispensary backs up to residents' backyards with just a row of shrubbery blocking it. If it's so safe and retailish, why do you need license plate cameras? Proponents like to argue that studies show that major crime is not a factor in the legalization of marijuana. That's setting the bar high, no major crime. As long as something doesn't promote major crime, do we allow it in Bolingbrook? Does that honor Bolingbrook? You might be interested to know that according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, childhood cannabis poisonings increase from edibles in towns that have legalized marijuana. According to the National Institute of Health's library, fatal car accidents involving marijuana go up 15% after dispensaries are added to a community. I think we've already heard tonight that this dispensary has easy access in and out, both on Veterans and Weber. Other ramifications include increased hospitalization visits for unintentional overdoses, higher rates of cannabis use during pregnancy, loitering, and public smoking of weed. Does this honor Bolingbrook? We've heard tonight that their first order is to get to know the neighborhood. If you had gotten to know the neighborhood, you would know that most recently there has been a very large apartment complex completely finished. I believe the last unit was completed last week. They were washing the windows. Springs of Lilycash are 2-story high apartment buildings. It doesn't fit with the people walking their dogs, enjoying the new sidewalks that have been placed across the street from where this dispensary is, to have armed guards there. Does that honor Bolingbrook? I oppose the opening of this second dispensary, and to the local government bodies, everything that you, and I'm not saying that it was you personally, have done so far regarding the promotion of this gateway drug ignores the majority of the voters in Bolingbrook. It is thoughtless and promotes revenue on the backs of our most vulnerable. And there is certainly nothing honorable about that.
Thank you. Any further correspondence?
Good evening.
Good evening. You swear to tell the truth at this public hearing?
I do. My name is Pam Hirth, and just a little bit of history about me. I am a former retired community development person, spent 30-plus years working in the industry. My last few positions and opened an opportunity for me to write code requirements for the different municipalities I work for, including for adult use cannabis facilities. And I'm going to take the perspective of, yes, I oppose this, and I oppose this from a personal reason because I have a son who is dependent upon cannabis. He started out smoking marijuana, got involved in other types of drugs, and now with the legalization in the state of Illinois and the opening of these dispensaries, he feels it's appropriate to go back there and continue to be dependent and not deal with the issues that he has. How many other parents or how many other families experience the same thing? I appreciate the fact that it has medical benefits, and for people who choose that as an option, that's their prerogative. However, it isn't only all just good. It provides an opportunity for people who don't want to address the real issues to now have easy access to this type of facility. And though we all speak about how Illinois and how municipalities, are in support of this and legalize it, bottom line is the federal government does not recognize it. Hence the reason why these types of operations are cash only, because banks cannot associate with them. Also, too, I have several questions for the applicant. Given their extensive experience in having 50 stores, I have several questions, which would also hopefully provide some thought provocation for the commission. First of all, having 50 stores, and speaking of your high security efforts, how many of your 50 stores have had any attempted robbery or full-fledged armed robbery? That's my first question. Second of all, when we look at a special use permit, which I've looked at many of them over my career, there are very general standards generally associated with those types of uses. And one of the main ones is that it's desirable and needed in the community. As what recently was pointed out, the first cannabis facility recently opened in the village of Bolingbrook. Where I live, I did a little research before coming here this evening and said, adult cannabis use facilities near me. 20 popped up. One within a 16-mile radius, two less than 5, or a few less than 5 mile, but the majority were 8 to 10 miles. Lots in Naperville. What does that say? So when I say that it's a desirable and needed use in the village, I question, and based on my experience working in economic development pretty extensively, there's going to be some form of cannibalization out of these existing stores to our stores. How much is that? What's the percentage of cannibalization that happens? It happens with Home Depots, it happens with Lowe's, it happens with very other specialty destination type uses. My other question is, how much with this product, how much percentage is CBD product? And the reason why I ask that is that you can pretty much buy CBD anywhere. Gas stations, there are even consultants, similar to Pampered Chef and Tupperware, that you can buy CBD products from. So what percentage is actually CBD product versus the seed product of marijuana? That would be my question. The other question is, what percentage of Bolingbrook residents are going to benefit from this particular type of use? Right now, if you didn't have a store, yeah, Bolingbrook residents are going outside of Bolingbrook. Now we have one store. So why do we need two? It's a destination use. You don't drive down the street and decide to stop in and buy pot or buy CBD product unless you're a user of either of those products. So those would be my questions. Also, too, we need to think about when we look at liquor stores, okay? You know, the old-fashioned liquor store really isn't around much anymore because liquor can be purchased at gas stations, it can be purchased in grocery stores. I know not here in Bolingbrook at gas stations, but at grocery stores, etc. But you say you're going to check IDs, but yet how often do police do operation and find out that liquor was sold to someone underage? Best security, best intentions don't allow anything to fall through the cracks. It doesn't. We've all read about it. We've all heard about it. The other thing is, let's look at Bolingbrook's access. It's both a curse and a great thing. We have access to I-55 from 53 and from Weber Road. On Weber Road alone this year, and I've lived here over 30-plus years, there have been 2 armed robberies that have been stipulated in the Bolingbrook police blotter. One at the BMO Harris Bank, which is in my neighborhood, and one at the Meyer gas station. These types of uses just, again, increase and provide another opportunity. I know, based on some other research I've done on the West Coast and what the crime rate is for these things, they're not as high as a pharmacy or a liquor store, but at the same time, this is a cash-only business, and they have very valuable material inside. And so even the best intentions of security can result in another situation. And this property is immediately adjacent to a residential subdivision. When I crafted ordinance requirements, not only did we keep it away from schools and parks, but also from any residentially zoned property or residentially used property. Does that limit then where you can locate these types of uses? Absolutely. But we've also regulated, and I was here when we did it, adult uses. Very limited locations for them to be. But we adopted the ordinance, and we allow them. Whether it's really allowing them or not, we have an ordinance on the books. So just some things that I would like the commission to really kind of think about, because it goes beyond just the pretty picture of how people need this and how much security we're going to have. It goes beyond that. And if, again, I'm a little late to the game. I did not vote for either of those 2 uses that the last speaker talked about. But at the same time, we really have to think about, do we need this? Do we really need this? And what benefit is it really serving? And the last thing I'd like to say, and I'm going to make this assumption, but I'm going to throw it out there. There are so many dispensaries going on right now. Not all of them can survive. So some are going to start buying up other ones to be bigger and bigger, and you're going to, you see it happen in a lot of different types of uses. Banks, classic example. How many banks are there now based on what they were years ago? So please, Commission, consider these things and really ensure that the decision that moves forward is really for the best interest of the village of Bolingbrook. We've been a great town for decades. I worked here in the 90s and early 2000s, saw a lot of this development happen. We got put on the map. People looked up to us. People used to say, I don't want to be like Naperville. Yet I heard, when I read the Facebook page last year, when Trustee Campenzano kind of was doing a poll of what people thought, all people kept saying was, well, Naperville allows them. Well, back in the day, when Naperville allowed signage in their subdivisions, no one wanted to be Naperville. So why we want to be Naperville now because they allow this type of use, you know, it's just a question that really needs to be considered and pondered. Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Hi,
Please raise your right hand, ma'am. You swear to tell the truth at this public hearing?
I do.
Please state your name.
Susan Ranke. I live on Farmgate, 177, for 44 years. And this is the street that backs up to the dispensary. There are homes that back up, 12 in particular that I counted that would be affected by this. I'm also a realtor of 35 years. And these homes are going to be affected by this. I mean, there's light pollution for one thing, which I know the bank tried to handle that, and hopefully you would too. But there's another issue that nobody's brought up, which I don't even know if anybody's aware of. There's a traffic issue. They put up 300 units, which is 1,000 people, which nobody told the neighbors about before it happened, or we weren't aware of it anyway. And when you're going down Veterans Parkway, when I'm going north on Veterans Parkway and I'm going to turn on Grady, I'm going to make a right. Right after that is Weber. So everyone's going fast, not realizing that Grady's right there, which is where the dispensary is. And I almost get hit a lot. And I'm very aware of it, but that's all I need now is a bunch of high people in front of me or behind me. So, I don't know. But the neighbors are not thrilled with it, I can tell you that, because I've spoken to all of them. And it does affect us. It's bad enough that they don't, originally the village was taking care of the land behind the bank and the tire store. Well, now they're not. People walk their dogs. It's a big mess there. They've got the light pollution. You know, these people have investments in their homes, and this is not going to affect them well. I mean, there's seniors that are going to end up selling their homes, and that's their whole money that they're going to have for their whole entire retirement. And who's, you know, I mean, I don't know. Who's going to buy a house behind the dispensary? Maybe the owners, I don't know. But it's going to affect people. So please think of the residents, because these are longtime residents, and we've got several of them here, and many more that we're not thrilled about it. And a lot of people don't even realize the effect it's going to have, because it's really become a very, very busy corner there. That was a country road. And then it became a gas station. Then it became a bank. Then 300 units went in. And then we've had malls. And that's all fine and well, and nobody, you know, minds all that. But there is a limit. Give us a break, please. And it's not that I'm against dispensaries. It's just that I've never seen one backing up to a residential area. And I've looked at a lot of dispensaries. I've never seen one backing up to a residential area. And none of them in this whole 25-mile radius back up to a residential area. So I don't know. But that's my input.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll sign this.
Do you have any further questions?
Oops.
swear to tell the truth at this public hearing?
I do.
Your name, sir?
Rick Bauman. So I will be neither as eloquent nor as intelligent as the previous folks and nervous as hell, so I apologize. But as your direct neighbor, I live directly behind the bank, have lived there for the last 17 years. I've always enjoyed Bolingbrook, and I recognize that, first off, I definitely recognize that marijuana, it's a good thing medically. It helps folks who maybe aren't medically needed, but could use the edge to take stuff off like that. I personally do not. Choice. We just got one recently on the other side of Bolingbrook, which I was fairly surprised with, but makes sense. It's kind of in a retail area. It's zoned. It's kind of away from everything else. It's not right next to houses. I would have never ever thought that this would show up next directly to my house. I couldn't tell you that this will impact my real estate values. I can only assume it would because I can tell you as a now adult with adult children, I would never buy one next to any more than I would next to a liquor store or a bar, nor a gas station for that matter. But that's beside the point. When I bought the house, there was already a bank there, and there's already a time, I guess it was NTB. But anyway, the quick Google search, right? I didn't realize that this was, when I got the original notice in the mail, I was like, okay, it's somebody, probably gonna be over in one of the retail spots over yonder. Was talking to my neighbor over here, and she's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be right there. And I was like, oh, very nice. Okay, so quick Google search, 15-mile dispensaries. Just kind of went to Google Earth, right, to each individual spot. In the nearest, and I'd say I probably looked at, give or take 20. I couldn't tell you that I captured all of them, but I can tell you that the nearest one that was anywhere near a house, and I am literally a 13-second walk from my back door to the building, to touch the building. Not a fast walk either. But the nearest one would be at Archer Avenue, east of Kedzie, right at the railroad tracks where the big terminal comes through there. Okay? And that's on Archer Avenue, and the nearest houses are across Kedzie or across Archer. I apologize, it's either across Kedzie or across Archer. But that was the nearest one. Every other one has been in a retail area. While I completely respect that the idea of owning of being in a bank facility, right? It's a perfect type of location for your business. I think it makes tons of sense. I wish it wasn't behind my house. There are plenty of other retail locations in Bolingbrook, for sure. I dare say that at least half of the locations that I was looking at were in industrial areas, in warehouse or in little warehouse areas. The one in Romeoville, I believe, is off of 53, come up through there, and it doesn't hinder their business at all, right? So I guess that this would be my concern about it. In terms of the lighting, right? I've lived there for the last 17 years. My kids have grown up here, and lighting, bushes, whatever. We've had problems with the bank taking care of their bushes in their area there, and I don't assume that I would have a problem with you folks by any means, but who knows? Who knows? Not necessarily you, but maybe your clientele. I don't know. I know plenty of people that smoke marijuana, really good, solid people. I have family that smoke marijuana, also good, solid people. It's helped them through times. I just don't know that in 15, 20 years, when I'm ready to sell and go retire, that I'm gonna be able to, reasonably, without taking some sort of loss. And again, I don't have the backup information to say that this is a true fact or not. But I can tell you that pretty sure it's gonna take a lot of families out of that thought process of saying, oh, well, I wanna live in that subdivision, let alone my house, which is, again, directly backed up to your property, or to property that you're proposing. In terms of marketing, and I know Mr. Wright over there had, kind of made some jokes. of all the people in the world, cookies are my about favorite thing in the world. For this to be called cookies, I find laughable. Call it what it is. And I'm good with that. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. Let's see. Sorry, I apologize. Ed, I did have a question for you, and this would probably fall into ordinances within the village, but specifically you talked about loitering. I would like to know a little bit more about that. I'd love to, understand that, because my understanding of security typically at a dispensary is that the security guards are inside or at the door, right? They're not patrolling the parking lot, okay? So I'd like to understand that a little bit better. I don't know what the actual ordinance calls for. Let's see, you mentioned, commitment to the community, right? There's a dollar amount on that, I'm assuming, right? I'd love to know that. I think you'd probably like to know that, or at least the village. You may have already shared that, I don't know. I wasn't privy to, or I apologize, I was privy to it. I didn't choose to come to these other things, or, I wasn't aware. So that's on me. And I apologize, I had one other. Commitment, community, littering. 11 hours a day, 7 days a week. That seems a little bit much. Is it really needed? I guess that would go back to that question. Is it really needed till 11 o'clock on a Sunday night or 10 o'clock on a Sunday night? I don't know, man. I don't know that as a matter of fact, I don't even believe, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know that I can buy beer for the Brewers game before noon. So I really haven't done that in years because I always prep beforehand. I don't know. I don't know if it's still, got to be 21 for either one of them. Don't know if that's quite the right thing. And I apologize, I had one other point, and I just can't remember what it was. Apparently I did not take it here, or didn't write it down.
Any
I'd
further
ask
questions or
for you to
concerns
take
that you
that
have,
into,
Mr. Boone, you can definitely, get a hold of staff. We'll send you a letter. Mr. Eastman is here. We'll definitely be able to answer any questions that you think of that do arise.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Any further correspondence?
You can, if you thought of something, you can come back. Yeah.
Good evening.
Please sign in and we'll.
Good evening.
Right hand. You swear to tell the truth at this public hearing.
I swear. Tell the truth.
Your name, sir?
My name is Kareem. My name is Kareem.
Right.
So I was actually not planning to come this evening because my mom just left the hospital like a half an hour ago having a knee surgery. So I'm sorry I missed the half part of it, but I think it's very important to be here this evening. So first of all, I lived in different states. The last state I lived in was Washington State. So they sell marijuana everywhere, but I've never seen anyone, which is weird, they sell it in a neighborhood that's full of people or people walking in the backyard. Never happened. We just, actually, our house was vandalized before we moved here 8 months ago. So there's already a lot of walking in the alley. In the back of our house, there's an alley, which is the tire shop, then, the bank. So I have 4 years old and 6 years old. We walk almost every day walking. You go to the bank, we pass the bank, go around the block. So we always walk there. We see a lot of walkers, a lot of people throwing trash. They don't care. And actually, my friend used to work in a dispensary in Missouri, and when I texted him, he said, "You're gonna have a lot of people throwing trash in your backyard, because you're gonna have a lot of people walking there, literally buying, the product. Then they throw, trash or whatever. Then they're just gonna go back." So I know Sue talked about the driving, but you gotta have a lot of people walking also in the backyard, which we already having issues as neighbors mentioned, the loitering, the trash, and other issues we have. I have kids, I care about them, I'm sure you do also. I don't know if you like the idea if somebody gonna have a dispensary next to your house, and how would you deal with that? I've lived in Glendale Heights, which is half an hour away from here. I moved to Bolingbrook. I went in to buy beer, and they said we don't. More than one gas station. Then I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, we can't sell liquor in Bolingbrook and Naperville. You have to go to a grocery store." I said, "Oh, interesting, because we buy it in gas station in Glendale Heights." Said it's illegal in Bolingbrook, which is interesting. You can't buy beer, as she said. You can't buy beer in gas station. But now we're gonna have marijuana store next to people who have kids and old people that, I have friends that they smoke marijuana, even they grew marijuana now, which is legal in Joplin, Missouri. But, there's a consequences of having it next to houses. It's a quiet area, you have a lot of kids. People walking in your back and throwing trash, and I don't feel safe anymore, because I've seen a lot of people walking and staring. So now we're trying to put a bigger fence. So I don't think it's a good idea. It's not just my opinion. It's a common sense. It's facts that we have. If you look in any other states, as I said, I lived in Port Orchard, Washington. All the marijuana stores are next to other businesses. You have to drive to it. I've never seen like a huge facility like a bank turn to a marijuana. And as many people mentioned, the closest one is 20 minutes. So you're telling me nobody gonna walk 11 p.m. on Sunday in the back alley, get some marijuana, and go back and throw trash? People drinking beer and throw the bottles when you're drunk, you throw beer or do crazy stuff. So you're not gonna throw trash in the back alley? I mean, let's be realistic. I think the problem is you're gonna have a lot of traffic, walkers and drivers, and you're gonna have, when you have a lot of traffic, you're gonna have consequences for that. So what I would like you to consider tonight, consider that having this facility next to your houses, and imagine if this is gonna impact not the value of a house, but the value of how safe you feel, how this is gonna impact your lifestyles in general. I don't think it's a bad idea. It could be a good business for the city, but I don't think it's a good idea to be close, as he said, like 6 feet, 10 feet. You get there 1 minute, 2 minutes from my house. I'm in the dispensary was 4 years and 6 years old. I just left, I moved to Bolingbrook. Our house got vandalized before we moved in. Now, we're gonna have another issue. So if this is, gonna have a lot of issues, I'm considering selling my house. And if thinking of really having this, store, maybe they should offer us to buy our houses and just move in or do other, expand their business. But I don't think this is very helpful for the city in general speaking. Even for the picture or the image of Bolingbrook, which is, what does the logo or the slogan of Bolingbrook says? What does it say?
Place to grow.
I'm sorry?
Place to grow.
A place to grow. So how are we going to grow a family of kids, 4 and 5 and 6 years old people, when you have a store next to you? So if we're going to have a marijuana store, probably we should think of having liquor back in the gas station or I should go back to Glendale. So I'm just kidding. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wasn't intending to speak, but I thought it's, it's important to voice our concern with our neighbors. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Any further correspondence? Seeing, yes, sir.
Is there a way you can pull the map back up?
Sure.
To the original?
You just want like an aerial?
The one that just kind of shows, it's actually a closer view of this.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, actually, this would probably not. I'm sorry, I apologize for not remembering this part, but just specific to the traffic and the area.
You want to just grab that portable mic so that they can hear you?
Oh, I apologize.
You can take it with you. If you want.
Great. Sorry. As it specific to the traffic that Sue mentioned, I don't know where all you folks live, if you're anywhere in that area, if you come out of there ever, but somebody mentioned Thackeray earlier. There's a lot of traffic that comes out on that side of Bolingbrook, through the subdivision, which is, and I apologize, right here. So there's quite a bit of traffic that comes through, and these areas over here also, for the most part, come out to Weber and come out this way. Specific to Veterans Parkway here, I believe it's 45 miles an hour, and I'm not looking for zoning or any, whatever, but when you come over here and you get to Grady, when the bank was open, there's many people that come either from northbound or southbound Weber Road. They make the left-hand turn, and then they have to go to the bank. So what they do is they come over into this left-hand lane, and instead of turning onto Grady, where there's a nice little entrance, nice safe, really good deal, they like to do this little zip around where there's kind of like that little entrance. It's kind of it's in the front of the lot that hits on Veteran Parkway. It's difficult enough to get out of there. 55 years old. I've been driving for 24 years, 20 or 30, whatever, however long that is. It's difficult enough. I mean, for that, one of my sons was in a really bad wreck there. Cars come down, and they're going to Weber Road, and it goes into it's hard enough to turn into Grady, let alone, trying to, for these folks to try and come in here, and then they'll try and, like I said, they'll do almost like a U-turn right here, and they go into the bank right there, and it's like, I would also recommend, if it's gonna go through, which I don't know, that there be some sort of fix for that, because, have it just be an entrance off of Grady, close that down. There's also an exit straight out of here where Mavis is. There's an exit from Mavis here and an exit through here. I guess it's right here. But I mean, it's got to be safer. And I don't mean to make the comment or assume anything, right? It's assuming when I go to the store and I buy a case of beer, I'm not there drunk and bringing it back. But I can also say with dab pens and other obvious, scenarios like this. I mean, you're driving down the road, you're in a parking lot, you can smell it quite often, especially since it's legal. And again, I appreciate that it's legal. It certainly should help Bolingbrook, right? The more stores we have, right, the better, the more you can cannibalize from another neighborhood. We'll get more tax base, et cetera, et cetera. I'm good with that, and I understand it. Again, looking at all of what's going on, it just seems like, right next to houses, this being my house, it's just not the right place. There's plenty of retail available over that way. Again, I recognize that the bank makes a hell of a lot of sense. I just don't, if these other safety considerations aren't taken into effect, I don't know this gentleman's name, but there is a walkway back behind Mavis and currently the Bank of America and behind my house. That's not all that taken care of at this point either. That could, I don't know what, what other, things could happen over that way. So I apologize, and thanks for the,
I'm going to pipe in here and tell you something. What he's trying to say is, there's two entrances to the subdivision that go out to Weber or Veterans Parkway. This is one of them. Okay, there's only two ways you can get out of the entire subdivision. It's a big subdivision. So this is one exit, and there's a lot of traffic problems right there. We do need to address that with some sort of traffic fix for that. But that's the problem, is there's only two entrances and exits to the subdivision, and that is at one of them. So
Thank you.
I just thought I'd kind of clarify it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further correspondence?
I'll be brief.
Please sign in.
Sorry for my casual attire. We were going to go to the concert next door. My name is Catherine Speakman.
Can you
My
raise your right
hus-
hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth at the public hearing?
I do.
Please.
50-year resident of Bolingbrook, teacher in the Valley View school system here in town for 29 years. I'll be brief. My husband and I oppose the second establishment in town. We feel one is enough. I just want to speak just very briefly, just as a teacher. The last 6 years of my 29 years, I've taught kindergarten. And one of our first literacy lessons that we have at the beginning of the year, our kindergartners come in and say, I can't read, I can't read. We say, yes, you can. You can read the world. And we teach them how they can read symbols around them. Do we have a graphic of what the front of the signage will look like at the front of the store? So we put up a sign, those red circles with a bullseye, and they go, Target. Yes, see, you could read. We'll put up the big golden M. What do you think they say? McDonald's. Yes, you can read. One of my kindergartners last year came from the new apartment buildings right there. Okay, she's gonna live there and live across from that. And she's gonna say, maybe, Mom, look, my teacher taught me I can read the world. That says cookies. I say, what does that C for? Of course, many of our kids come in reading already. So now parents are going to have start to embed that language and have those discussions with their children when they read the world and describe to them how what they know as cookies as a 5 and a 6-year-old is really something very different, sweetie. Let me try to explain to you, 5, 6 years old, what that means in our community as we drive around and see McDonald's, Target, Burger King, Jewel, and you read the world. That's one reason why we oppose this in our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further correspondence? Hearing none. May I have a motion to close this public hearing? Commissioner Shank. Second. Who went first? Who went first? Shay went first. Second, Commissioner Shay.
Who was the first one? Who was the first one?
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker,
Yes.
Commissioner Shank,
yes.
Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores, yes. Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooper,
Yes.
Chair Ali.
Yes. At this time, I would like to motion to approve the findings of fact for project number 406.23.
So moved.
Commissioner Shank. Second, Commissioner Shea. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker,
Yes.
Commissioner Shank,
Yes.
Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores, yes. Commissioner Wright,
No.
Vice Chair Cooper,
Yes.
Chair Ali.
Yes. At this time, may I have a motion to approve project number 406.23, use of special use for a cannabis dispensary, cookies.
So moved.
Motion, Commissioner Shank.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Shea. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tucker,
No.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores, yes. Commissioner Wright?
No.
Vice Chair Cooper?
No.
Chair Ali?
Yes, we stand approved. All in favor? Nope, that was done. Do you have any new business? Any old business? Citizens to be heard? Chair report, I have nothing to report today. Any report from the commission? Hearing none. Anything from staff?
I have no report.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Commissioner Wright,
Second.
second Commissioner Shea. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful night.